What's up, everybody? It's a Tabletop Tyrant, and today we got a community FAQ for Warhammer the Old World, so let's dive in. Alright, so I was pretty taken aback by this. I was streaming, painting up Ruglud's Armored Orcs. You can check the stream if you want. I stream 9 to 12 Central Standard Time if you want to catch out and hang out with me in hobby. But I broke it down in the way it downloads, so Ravaging Hordes, Forces of Fantasy, and the main rulebook. Some rules I completely retyped and fixed the sentence in there. Some I did not because it was self-explanatory. I'm going to dive into it, and we should get started now. So, PowerPoint freaking proficient like day one. Bam! Ravaging Hordes. So I put the page numbers all on the right hand side so y'all can check that out for yourselves. Gigantic cave spiders got moved through cover. Pretty sure we knew that was coming. It was necessary. Something I thought that was just a little typo. Night Goblin Fanatics 0 to 1 per 10, but it caps out at a total of 3 Night Goblin Fanatics. So I mean, again, makes sense. It's how it was in the older edition. Take 3 per unit. You can have a unit of 100, but you're still only getting 3 Fanatics. The head button at is 0 to 1 per model now, so you can't put 5 on one dude and stack it. Now this is a big one. The Chaos Steed. So now heavy regular core Chaos Knights are going to have countercharge. I don't need to express how great that is because I've done it in the videos. But countercharge is great. You're going to be able to go after regular cavalry monsters and stuff now with your core cavalry unit. That's intense. Hellcat got a base update to 100 by 150 rectangle and 25mm for crew. Gifts at Chaos. Each gift may be chosen once per army. Pretty self-explanatory. I was doing this. I guess you could have maxed it out, but it makes sense. And the same thing with mutations. They can only be chosen once per army. Moving on, we got the Arcane Journals. This is going to be on page 40. The Ogre, Badlands Ogre champion costs 7 points. So there it is. Arcane Journal Skin Wolves. They're on a 50mm base, and the Skin Wolf Jarl is a champion. Also, the Warp Fire Dragon for my buddy who just played a game with it the other day. It just got added. The close order rule, we kind of were confused. It didn't say anything, but we went with close order just to be safe. So, yeah, my man. So, close order on the Warp Fire Dragon. Moving on, actually, I was really excited to see that the forces of the Ravaging Hordes didn't need a lot of changes. Nothing that wasn't like common sense. But let's move on to the Forces of Fantasy. So, alright, so the steam cannon, really unique. I haven't met anyone that 360 no-scoped anybody, but you only have the front arc with the cannon. It goes without saying since it's not turret operated, but there you go, they fixed that. The Imperial Griffin, you now delete the 2-head special rule from the special rules. So yeah, that was something that threw me off. I wasn't sure if you like how that worked or why they put that in there. It baffled me a bit. I just thought it was like to distinguish the Griffin. If you had the Imperial Griffin, it had to have 2 heads. But I'm glad you can take the 1-headed Griffin and still call it an Imperial Griffin. Laurels of Victory. With determining combat res, each unsaved wound made by the bearer, but not the mount, is worth 2 combat result points, not 1. That is freaking dirty and awesome. Naturally, it wouldn't apply to a mount. A lot of this stuff is going to say doesn't apply to the mount. This makes sense, but do 2 combat res points versus 1. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. It's going to definitely be something I think we see more people taking. The Wizard Staff is now 0 to 1 per wizard, so no stacking. He's not going to be carrying like 50 stabs in the battle, so shame on anyone that did that. Questing Knights now is a unit size is 3 up. That makes sense. It's pretty nice. My daughter wanted to get down on them, and it's like you got to buy 2 boxes to make a unit. I'm glad they fixed that. Knightly Virtue. A virtue does not affect the mount, kind of dedoy, and each virtue can only be chosen once per army. So again, kind of like Chaos with the mutations and stuff. So the combat res bonus for the Lance Formation, you gain +1 combat point for unit strength of 5 or more. So in order to get the Lance Formation +1, you need to be a unit strength of 5 or more. Now with Cavalry, not too bad. They count for 2 anyways, but you'll see down below when they get to close order, they did a similar thing where if you're not a unit strength of 5 or more, you're not getting that +1 for close order. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Sisters of the Thorn, Daughters of Eternity special rule. Models of the special rule have a 4-up ward save against any wound suffered. Dirty. And then change the first sentence of Deepwood Coven special rule to a unit of Sisters of the Thorn knows a single spell randomly generated by the controlling player, so yourself, for armies before armies are deployed. They can choose from either battle magic or elementalism lore of magic. So it makes sense. It's chosen the same way any other spells are. I don't know if people were picking or what they were doing. I haven't met anyone that played the Wood Elves. Sorry, no jabs there. Just don't know anyone. So yeah, now you have to randomly generate it like any other spell, and you get the battle magic and elementalism lore. Let me know how everyone was doing that before, because I thought that was kind of a weird one to state. But again, I haven't played any Wood Elves, and I barely looked at that section. Elven Honors does not affect your mount. Fair. Arcane Journal Dwarves. The Axe of Dargo is strength +2 now. And that's on page 37. The Dwarven Engineer Sapers, page 40. Add the hostile terrain to the list of Engineer Sapers special rules. So they now have hostile terrain in their special rules. The Goblin Hewer base size is now 50 by 75. So the monster is cap based, and that's on page 46. Arcane Journals, Kingdom of Bretonia, page 37. Guardian of the Sacred Sites, third sentence, second paragraph. It does not include magical vortexes, open ground, or hills, or any constructions such as walls or buildings. So the full rule reads, Guardian of the Sacred Sites. The Green Knight is not placed on the battlefield during deployment. He slumbers until he is awakened during the game. During any of your start or turn subphases in which the Green Knight is not on the battlefield, even if he was removed from play as a casualty during a previous turn, you may attempt to awaken him by rolling a d6. On a roll 1 to 2, he continues to slumber. On a roll of 3 up, the Green Knight awakens. If the Green Knight has not yet been awakened by the start of round 5, he awakens automatically. When the Green Knight awakens, he may be placed completely within any natural terrain feature anywhere on the battlefield. For the purposes of this rule, a natural terrain feature includes any woods or difficult or dangerous terrain as described on page 296 of the Warhammer the Old World Rulebook. It does not include magical vortexes, open ground, or hills, or any construction such as walls or buildings. Before the game starts, the players should agree upon which terrain features are natural and which are not. In addition, rather than moving normally during the remaining move subphase, if the Green Knight is completely within natural terrain and a natural terrain feature and is not engaged in combat, you may remove him from the battlefield and replace him so that he is completely within a different natural terrain feature anywhere on the battlefield. The Green Knight cannot move again during this phase. So I threw the sentence in there in the whole paragraph because it was kind of just weird reading that one thing out loud. Just my own personal innuendo, I guess. So hopefully you guys got something out of that one. Moving on to the main rulebook. Now we got a doozy here. Some things changed. Like I said, we're going to talk about the combat res. But combat res, close order may claim a combat result point if your unit is strength 5 or more. So with regular infantry, you're going to need 5 or more models. With cavalry, you'll need 3 or more models. Hey everybody, it's me after I made the PowerPoint. It just dawned on me when I got to the combat res is that a lot of things with close order are no longer going to be getting that extra point because their strength falls below a 5. So things that will not be gaining that combat res point if they're individual by themselves are things like let me see. War beasts are at a 1. Chariots, light chariots are unit strength of 3. So unless they're in a unit, you're not going to be getting a combat res. Heavy chariots are unit strength 5, so you're good there. Monsters are as their starting wounds. So this will be affecting some monsters that have close order, whether or not they get the bonus or not. Behemoths, starting wounds, but you're pretty good there, I would say. I think most of them are like 5, but a lot of them might be 4 as well. So I think it's going to see a shift in how people use their monsters and chariots. Maybe a little bit less on the light chariots, and maybe we'll see a little bit less monsters brazenly charging in since they won't get that combat res point. It won't affect it too much. It's just nice to get that point too. You know, it helps balance out things with rank bonuses. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that in there to give you full context. If you see another one of these, I had a brain blast in the middle of editing. Everybody, thanks for listening to that. Heavy casualties on page 161. The first paragraph changes to, if during any single phase other than the combat phase, a unit loses 25% of the models contained in the unit at the start of the phase, make a panic check. Big key word here is loses 25% of models in the phase. So if it's a unit strength of 20 and it has 10, at the start of that phase it has 10 models. You have to beat 25% of those 10 models, not 25% of the 20-man unit. I know some editions were like that. I want to say 8th was like that, but I can't quite remember anymore at this point. But anyways, at the start of the phase, whatever the model count is, if you drop below 25% of that in that phase, you must make a panic check. I like that. Chariot runners, friendly models whose troop type is chariot, can draw line of sight over or through models with this special rule and can move through friendly units if they are in skirmish formation, and if the majority of the models have this special rule. That's pretty freaking sweet. I like that. I know that was something most people were doing anyways, but they've written it down in the paper so events will have an easier time navigating their way and circumventing their way through that rule and dealing with people probably arguing over what's going on. Now, evasive on page 168. Once per turn, when a unit in which the majority of the models have the special rule is declared the target during the enemy shooting phase, that unit may choose to fall back in good order, fleeing directly away from the enemy unit shooting at it. Fire and flee. Page 169. If the majority of the models in the unit armed with the missile weapons have this special rule, the unit may declare that it will fire and flee as a charge reaction. Now, this is good. I was looking at the nomadic wog and looking to throw some goblins on wolf, but I gave some of them the fire and flee rule because I run them with bows, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to fire and flee because he was in the unit. So clarified it super well for me. That's great. So fly. Whenever a model with a special rule moves, it can choose to either move across the ground as normal using its given movement characteristic, or to move by flying through the air. When a model flies, it uses a special rule, the fly movement characteristic shown in brackets. So if it's fly 10, you'll get that 10-inch movement. Fly 8, you'll get the 8. That's the one it's talking about. Models choose to move by flying. So you have to make the choice to fly, or you can use your natural move characteristics. I could read the complete rule, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Monster handlers, page 173, change the third sentence of the second paragraph of the rule to on a 1 to 4, the monster loses a wound, but on a 5 up, one of the handlers is removed instead. Great, I'm glad they clarified that, makes sense. Random movement, page 176, change the third sentence of the first paragraph to the rule 2, when a model with this special rule moves, roll the dice to determine its maximum movement. I believe the previous rule said roll 2d6 to determine its movement, so they clarified it to just rolling what it tells you to roll on the sheet. So Swift Stride, page 178. A unit which consists entirely of models with this special rule. So if you add a character, it needs to have Swift Stride to it. Increases its maximum possible charge range by 3 inches. And when it makes a charge, flee, or pursuit roll, may apply a d6 modifier to the result. So, big thing here, you need to have a character if you join to have Swift Stride. Everything needs to have Swift Stride. The benefit from it, pretty self-explanatory. You can only be as fast as your slowest moving person. Crunch, page 227, change the second bullet point to if the path of the cannonball meets a hill, impassable terrain, or high linear obstacle, it stops immediately. No further models are hit. Fair, case in point. So the Berserker Blade changed its weapon profile to range as combat, strength +1, AP nil, so none. The special rules are extra attack, so you get +1 extra attack, impetuous magical attacks. So you're no longer frenzy on the Berserker Blade, which is nice because impetuous, now I believe on a 4 through 6, you act as normal, whereas frenzy, you were forced to charge as soon as something was inside your charge range. So now it's a 50-50 chance whether or not you charge something you didn't intend on charging. So that's good. So again, it puts in the notes the wielder of the Berserker Blade is impetuous. Great. The Bedazzling Helm on page 340. Models whose troop type is infantry or cavalry only, so you cannot be mounted on monsters. And then the last one is a quick reference sheet on dispelling a spell. Replace the first bullet point as follows. If the result exceeds the casting roll, the spell is dispelled. Makes sense, checks out. I think we all get that. Now, these are some changes to make to you guys' book, to your rules, something to go into. If any of you have events going up like I do, perfect thing to brush up on. I want to say thank you all for checking this video out. Any changes you'd like to see in the future with these, let me know. I just did what makes it make sense to me and put it in a video in PowerPoint format. Hopefully this works out. Everybody, thank you for your time. Catch me live 9 p.m., 12 Central Standard Time. Sometimes I stay on later. Everyone, peace.